All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Government Operations and Military Affairs, House of Representatives. It's 9:15 on, what is today, Wednesday? Wednesday, yes, May 28th. We are joined by Chair Pepper, Candidates Control Board, and he is going to run us through the Senate proposals of amendment on S321, our miscellaneous cannabis bill. Good morning, sir.
Morning. For the record, James Pepper, Chair of the Cannabis Control Board. Yes, this bill, H321, has been on a long journey since you guys sent it on its way. It's been through 3 committees now in the Senate, and it's on for the calendar for today, for action today. In speaking with the chair, we thought, before it comes back to you, instead of, having this conversation at 11 p.m. on kind of a Friday night, might as well just do it now to let you know what's coming. And Michelle Childs is out. And so, instead of burdening Kirby with it, I figured I'd just walk you through some of the changes. So economic development added 4 instances of amendment. Some of those have been stripped out by subsequent committees. So I won't focus too deeply on them, but I'll give you a sense of what they are. So Senate Economic Development, in their first instance of amendment, they kind of reinstituted the funding mechanism for the Cannabis Control Board that's in existence now, which is just that a portion of the cannabis excise tax covers the deficit between our fee revenue that we bring in from fees and our operating expenses. That's how things work now. Essentially, kind of it's a self-funding industry. The people that are benefiting from the work that we do, that are purchasing cannabis, paying the excise tax, pay for a portion of our budget, and the fees by having that funding mechanism, the fees don't have to be kind of so astronomical that it's a totally inaccessible market. But I will say that provision was taken out by the Senate Appropriations Committee, so you probably will not be seeing. The second instance of amendment adds a board member to the Land Access and Opportunity Board. This is a little bit of a kind of out of left field amendment. It's not really kind of germane to cannabis, but it was kind of an orphaned request. Didn't have a kind of landing spot, so they put it in the cannabis bill. So it adds 1 new board member to the LAOB, appointed by Migrant Justice. Just for reference, it's an 11-member board currently, and so this would be adding a 12th member. And I don't know much about the kind of operations of the Land Access and Opportunity Board or why they wanted that. There was a request from Senator Ron Hinsdale. The third instance of amendment, and again, this came out in the Senate Finance Committee, so I won't go too deep into it, but was a change to cannabis cultivator fees. This was at the request of the Lieutenant Governor to reduce the fees of outdoor cultivators. And in order to kind of make those reductions deficit or revenue neutral, you had to double some fees for indoor cultivators. There was just not enough time to hear from all the people that were going to be impacted. So the Senate Finance Committee wrote to remove that fee change. The fourth instance of amendment is kind of the big one that guys might see. It's about, they're called the Cannabis Showcase Event Permits Pilots. So this is, for lack of a better term, kind of a farmer's market, a cannabis only 21 plus farmer's market. So this amendment would allow a retailer that's in good standing and is in partnership with at least 3 small cultivators or product manufacturers can seek a permit first from the town, kind of like how alcohol works. And, the town can condition the issuance of that permit on whatever kind of public safety or, traffic flow, whatever they want to do, they can kind of condition that permit. Once the kind of retailer in good standing has that permit from the town, and they come and apply to the board, and it's to hold the farmer's market. There's some kind of guardrails that were put into place to make sure that this, we can implement this effectively and safely. First, it's a pilot program, so it's not going to be, it's limited number to no more than 5 events between now and December 31st, 2026. The events can only take place in towns that have opted in to retail sales, which is, I think, around 80 or 90 towns have opted in. Towns, the local municipal body is not obligated to grant one of these permits if they don't like what's kind of being presented to them, or if they don't feel like they can do it safely. The retailer, again, must be in good standing, so we'll have a compliance history for that retailer, and they're going to be the ones kind of running the show. It's going to be their point of sale system that's tracking the sales. It's going to be their bud tenders that are going to make sure that people are getting their IDs checked properly. We'll have kind of a long compliance history of the people that are asking for these permits to make sure that they actually are good at doing these things. Let's see, these events could take place outside under the proposal. So in open air farmers market, they could also be inside, but they have to be in a secure, access controlled, defined area that's screened from view of the general public. So no one under the age of 21 can even kind of see these things reasonably. That's just part of our general advertising laws about cannabis sales. And then the retailers the whole point of this is to showcase small cultivators. So, the retailer is going to submit a profit sharing plan to the board that the legislature wants us to kind of approve. They don't want this to be just a kind of predatory agreement where it's just one more opportunity for retailers to benefit from sales. So, in New York, they require that this model exists in New York, I should say. They require a minimum 50-50 profit share. The legislature or the Senate Economic Development Committee didn't want to get too prescriptive about what that profit share has to be accepted. They just said that the board has to approve it and it's got to be in compliance with the intent to promote small cultivators. And then, there's kind of a catch-all provision at the end that allows the board to add any sort of additional public safety or kind of consumer health regulations, restrictions to one of these permit licenses. So the rationale here, I think you guys remember the Growers Association coming in here and kind of just saying that they really need to go direct to consumer. Cultivators need to be able to, kind of build their own brands directly with consumers. It's currently not, allowed or contemplated in the cannabis laws. Everything kind of runs through a retailer. It's kind of a single point of access to the public. So this kind of splits the difference between that. It really, it might not sound like it's all that different than what we have right now, or kind of achieve the goals of the Growers Association. But I think when you're moving the sales of cannabis from the kind of security of a retail establishment out into kind of somewhere else, there are at least theoretical risks there. This is still largely cash only industry. There's still just a lot of, all of our regulations are geared towards protecting the kind of retail establishment, and now we're moving it outside. So I think this is kind of a proof of concept idea. Can we do this safely? We don't have to do 5 if they're not going well. If one of them goes poorly, we'll just not do the rest.
So you have that discretion?
Yeah, it's no more than 5, and it's fully at the discretion of the board and the local authorities. This is the kind of the big change that you're going to be having to grapple with, whether you want to do this or not. And then that's it for the Senate Economic Development. The full amendment can be seen on the committee page for today. It's as recommended by Senate on Economic Development. So Senate Finance, they stripped out the fees, and then they added a new study committee. That amendment is also on your website. That study committee is section 12A of the Senate Finance Amendment. And essentially it's similar to a committee report that we submitted earlier this year about whether a portion of the cannabis excise tax should be dedicated on a continuing basis towards economic or business technical assistance and support for the cannabis industry, and whether a portion should be going to the LAOB, the Land Access and Opportunity Board, for kind of broader community reinvestment. So it also asks us explicitly to do a full review of our fees for a potential kind of fee overhaul next year. So just, what fees do we have in effect? How much are they bringing in? What are they projected to bring in next year? What are some comparable fees in other jurisdictions? And any policies or trends that may impact the viability of the fee amounts, the fee revenue. So it's a fee report and it's a report about kind of should cannabis excise tax money be supporting these other initiatives. I think that's it for Senate Finance. And then Senate Appropriations, they have a pretty basic amendment. They struck out, as I mentioned, that funding formula issue. And they struck out our attorney position that we had asked for. And that's on the floor for today. And that's, my guess is that's how it'll come to you, those strikeouts. The kind of big question is whether you guys feel comfortable with the farmers markets.
Yeah, I know that's it. A conversation that we touched on last biennium. There was awareness within the committee as the conversation was happening down in Senate Econ. And yeah, to Chair Pepper's point, it's time for us to marinate on that one. But now, what I want to ask about though is the removal of the position for your.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that was a capacity request.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is we, if you look back historically, we don't come to the committees asking for positions until the need is already there. We don't kind of anticipate need and ask for positions. We're already out of balance as compared to other states between our number of compliance officers and number of licensees we have. And so the position was pretty important. I know it's been caught up in just the broader conversations around expanding the size of state government or and spending. But for us, again, like this position would have been paid for by the people that are going to cannabis shops and paying the excise tax for it. So it's unfortunate in that regard, but I do understand that there's kind of broader discussions at play.
So if we're adding workload with some of these amendments, what does that do to your capacity to execute the charge?
It's certainly doesn't help. I mean, again, this position was to kind of true up a deficit that we're already facing as far as staffing. So adding more to adding anything more is, further exacerbating that problem. We could be pretty limited. We have the discretion for these farmers markets to keep them incredibly small and tight. We have full discretion other than what the local authorities are going to do. So we could just, do one and, it wouldn't be that much extra work to do just a single one. There's nothing that requires us to do 5 or requires us to make them kind of larger events that could have like, food trucks or, music or anything. We don't have to do it that way. That's what the industry is, I think, expecting is to kind of have like a, not like exactly a Brewers Fest because there's no consumption at these events.
Yes.
But to have a bigger event where you kind of really showcase a bunch of small cultivators.
Okay. I've been kind of asking all the questions. Any questions from the table on this language that's being proposed? No, we do have time, obviously, like we're looking at 3 amendments. It hasn't been melted into the bill yet. They're still navigating through the Senate, but I just wanted to get this in front of everyone early. So it was known because there are some notable changes in here. No?
Well, if anyone does have any questions, I'm happy to come back. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks for the time. All right, from a little late to right on time. Grab waters on Vince, how are you? Yeah, you
Okay, how are
nailed it. Yeah, how'd the thing go?
It was great. House is sold.
Awesome. It's always a good day when those things can happen. All right, so we are. We are now moving over to S23. We talked about this extensively over the last 2 months. And have it set up for possible vote. Machinery.
No.
So I do see our Deputy Secretary of State has joined us for this conversation. And so I just want to open it up for further discussion. If there's any questions for Deputy, please feel free to fire. Hang up.
Just the first thing that I'm going to ask, I believe the latest information I heard this morning from our committee assistant who's unable to join us right now is that we have not heard anything back from the individuals yesterday who testified in executive session, so there are no recommendations that we can consider for this bill. Is that correct?
That is my understanding. Rep. Hooper of Burlington.
Following up on that, is there a timeline that
No, my understanding from committee assistant was the email that was sent out asking for any suggestions or written feedback was there was not a response to this one. That was my understanding. Rep. Waters Evans.
My understanding from what they said yesterday when we were discussing it, is that they felt like our language, not that it was insufficient legally or that it wasn't, or that it was like inadequate in some way as a bill. I thought it was more that they were saying, based on what their knowledge and expertise is in the subject matter, that they feel like it should be more comprehensive and that there were instances in which not that the legal language wasn't tight enough, but that policy wise, it wasn't tight enough. So that was if I misunderstood that, which I don't think I did, then that would be a different story. But I think the way that it stands right now is that it's not that anyone had a problem with the bill as it is the way we have it. It's just that their point of view is that we need to be more strict. I think we intentionally left it or because of those First Amendment concerns that people have, that we reached a good, or, concurred that the Senate had reached a good place with towing that line between limiting free speech and also taking care of the issue and addressing it, which is, interfering in elections. And I think we're at a good place, but my understanding from the testimony that people are worried about is not that it's going to change. It's not going to change the concept of what we have going right now as far as this bill is concerned as it stands. Does that make sense? And I understand we've talked about it a bunch, how this is going to be a work in progress. It's new. We're going to learn things all the time that are going to change the way we address it. And maybe the help that we get from them would be really useful to look at, over the summer and then into next year when we still have time and, we can do what we want with these laws. So if we feel like, oh yeah, they're right, it does need to be more strict, then we can incorporate that next time around. As you all know, I really enjoy this bill and I'm super excited that we're possibly going to vote on it.
Rep. Stone.
Yeah, that's why I asked that clarifying question yesterday, which I know is executive session, but about just want to make sure that I heard you say X and they confirmed that is what they meant, which is, there are loopholes. There are always going to be loopholes. If we closed all the loopholes in this very moment, by later today, there would be new loopholes just because the technology advances so quickly and the bad actors are either creating new loopholes or finding ones that are there. So to do nothing is more dangerous. So I agree that just, getting something on the books so that we can also prepare our Secretary of State, let our Attorney General know so that they can start working on educating the public and election workers and people in their office is imperative. And then this is going to be a bill that we better be adding on to this every session. That, I really think that's what you're gonna see, maybe multiple times in this session, just because the nature of the topic. But by doing nothing, we already are behind. It's not like we're going to fall behind. We already are. So I think based on the extensive testimony that we heard from, what was it, 18 witnesses, and we've been taking testimony since March, the end of March, I feel ready to do this. And I just want to also say this came out of the Senate without opposition from very, a very diversified group of people across party lines. So, or the aisle or whatever. So I'm really appreciative that the Senate brought this to us. And I do think it strikes a good balance between First Amendment rights and keeping constituents and the public safe from this stuff. So I say go for it. And I'm ready to make a motion to vote on this yesterday.
Rebecca?
I have a question for council, if that's appropriate at this moment.
Yes, of course. Council, would you join us, sir?
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Rick Sable, Office of Legislative Counsel. Glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, and forgive me for not recalling, but this is the first such law passed in the US, or a couple of other states have already passed this law. I can't remember the number.
So it's in the 20s. Laws that, and they're a little bit different state to state, but generally speaking, 20 or so states, I think it's 26 or 23, one of those numbers, have in some way or another regulated synthetic media, AI, and elections. Yeah,
Thank you. Slating that with a different bill, sorry.
that's okay.
You have anything else for council? All right, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ms. Brisk.
I'll hang around just in case.
Yes. Representative Evans.
I believe that there are 6 states that have disclosure prior to an election. Laws already on the books, which would be the ones that are the most similar to the ones we have right now.
Thank you.
Rebecca?
Since the vote was called for in an informal manner, I just want to say that I really wish we could put this off until tomorrow or so to see if, when our committee assistant is back, if we can hear from Norwich folks, but if you all want to take a vote, that's your prerogative to call for it. But I probably will be a no for that reason, because I don't fully have my information.
I would still like to make the motion just because of time, because, we're going to be likely adjourning here on Friday. And I think, we heard from Norwich, and I don't know if that information would change minds or if they could even come in. So I still think, I want to make the motion to vote. I don't know how to do that formally. I'm going to do it formally as I can right now. I would formally like to make a motion to vote on this legislation right now. That work?
Close enough.
Okay, great.
Any other conversation? We work, Burlington.
Kind of sit more Lisa's thinking. I think probably the greatest expertise in this in the state is holes that could fill. So I think is a quote. From since we asked them, we just show up, then vote.
Bird? Waters Evans.
I just want to clarify, they say there are holes in the bill or holes in the legislation. What they said was, it's the way that it's written seems loose and that it's opening up potential loopholes for people to exploit it in the future. And by exploit it, mean find other ways to create the synthetic media in a way that would get around the law. Not that it's a law with holes in it. I feel like we've really focused in on this one particular thing this one person said that is kind of usurping the testimony from all the other witnesses. No one said there are holes. No one said it's inadequate. They're just saying from their perspective, from their perspective, as people who are experts in this field of AI, synthetic media, deepfakes, et cetera, that there is always the potential for holes and that they would like to tighten it up. It is not that it's not good legislation. I just
Call the
want to be
question.
clear that everyone understands
Oh,
that.
question. Okay. Not my statement then. That's a good question.
So. Gil, was that a hand?
It was.
Thank you, sir. Please.
I'd just like to state that we have asked for information, we haven't gotten it. Also, that it's already been stated that we will have to change this bill. If we get this information, then we could always change this and add and amend it in January or whatever. So if we get information and find out that we've given the Secretary of State's office the wrong information and they start giving out that information to train people and make them aware, and now we've had to change it because the information we gave is wrong because we didn't wait for what we asked for, then that's a bigger mess. It would be better to have all of the information we asked for rather than go off half-cocked and say, well, this is better than doing nothing when what we did could possibly be wrong. So I say we wait for the information we asked for, at least give the individuals that we asked for the courtesy of hearing back from them. If we have to change this in January, the Secretary of State's office would still be in the same position.
Like I said, I believe if Rep. Coffin is done, I believe it is Rep. Morgan. Did you have a hand? Oh, sorry, I thought I saw a hand on Rep. Waters Evans, that's
I just want to make sure, and we're lucky we have the Deputy Secretary of State here if she decides to chime in. I believe the Secretary of State's office is fully supportive of this bill. I believe their testimony yesterday is that as it is, regardless of what comes in the future, that they are fully supportive of this and would like to see it pass. Is that correct?
Yes, for the record, Deputy Secretary of State Lauren Hibbert. I think we're in a much better position, even if we have to make modifications in January for this bill to pass now. We will need to really ramp up our education starting in the new year. Because that's when we will be starting to get ready for the August primary. And my concern that I articulated yesterday is passing this bill in March, even if it's effective then, will be too late. But we will know before January what the issues are from Norwich. We may know tomorrow, or we may know next week, or we may know in a month. We don't know. I wasn't part of your executive session, so I don't know if you folks described the legislative timeline to them and the urgency. And I don't know if anyone asked them, would it be better to pass this bill today or to wait until January or for a more perfect bill? My suspicion, based on the conversations that I've had with folks similar to that, is that they would say pass the bill today, even though it may not cover every intricacy that it possibly could. And I think they would say it never can. But I wasn't in the room, you folks were, and you heard the testimony, I did not. But based on the conversations I've had around cyber intelligence with my security clearance, that has been the conversations I've heard. And I am concerned about waiting to pass this bill in search of the perfect, because I don't know if Norwich, the folks from Norwich, they're not legislative experts. They don't understand our legislative runway. And I don't know if that question was asked. So I am strongly supportive of us passing this bill this year so the Secretary of State can start on a trajectory of education. And will that education have to be modified throughout the months and years? Absolutely. But I would really appreciate this bill passing this session. I guess the only other if I
Oh,
can.
no, please.
The only other thing that I think could be a possibility is if this committee heard something that substantially changes the conversation, this committee could offer a floor amendment, a consensus floor amendment tomorrow when it's on the floor. If you hear from Norwich, because what your committee is debating is, should we pass this today or should we pass this tomorrow? And it will be heard tomorrow on the floor and on Friday presumably, and with all the rules suspended and sent over to the Senate for them to concur with all of their rules suspended. And if there's a substantial modification, this committee could offer a floor amendment.
Rep. Waters Evans.
That is correct, but my understanding from our conversation with the people at Norwich was that they want the laws to be stronger. So I don't think we can account for every technological advance that's going to happen in the next year. I think it's important that we do this. We make laws all the time that involve technology and that involve things that are changing. And I don't think saying this isn't the most perfect up-to-date thing that has ever been created is a reason to not pass it. And it's not a half-baked idea. It's not a half-baked bill. Before yesterday, we heard from so many people. When the people from Norwich were speaking, they said something and we responded by asking them for information. They didn't say, we need to give you further information for you to make an informed decision. We requested that information and now several people are saying, we asked for something that we now can't proceed without. When my perception is it's only going to reinforce what we already know and what they already told us yesterday, which is that this is a really serious matter that needs to be tended to immediately. And I think that coincides with the testimony we've heard here. If you watch the Senate testimony, I think it coincides with that too. I'll stop because you all know how I feel now, but I'm feeling a little confused and frustrated because I don't understand what information people need to make a different decision. Like, what are we waiting for? Like, what do we need to know?
Okay, I think we have a question on the floor before us to vote on this bill, and I don't think we will ever satisfy your curiosity. We've all stated how we feel, yay or nay. So I think we should just take the vote if the chair is agreeable to that.
Yep, I mean, we've had this up for vote multiple times now, so I would like to proceed with that. So the motion has been made, so I move that S-23 draft number, hold on, I'm on the wrong bill. That was the candidate's bill.
3.2.
Yep. S-23 draft 3.2 dated 5/9/2025 be found favorable. Any further discussion? No. Madam Vice Chair, will you call the roll?
I will. Rep. Boyden is absent. Rep. Pincinel.
No.
Rep. Morgan.
No.
Rep. Hooper Burlington.
On the Secretary of State's comment, yes.
Rep. Coffin.
No.
Rep. Stone.
Yes.
Rep. Hooper of Randolph.
Yes.
Rep. Nugent.
Yes.
Waters Evans.
Yes.
Rep. Byron.
Yes.
And Rep. Pango is a no. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 4, 1.
Okay. So moving
And
target. Sorry.
Rep. Waters Evans is the reporter, is that correct?
Yeah.
I need to say anything?
No, no, no,
else?
no. I was just making sure that part had wrapped. All
Okay.
right, so we still have flood, all hazards floating. That is got amendments on it. Yeah, floating was poor choice of
No
words,
pun
wasn't it?
intended, I
Wow,
know.
wow. That was so unintentional.
Sorry.
Normally I work the shtick pretty hard, but that was unintentional. And so I have for tomorrow, just for situational awareness for people, I also put up the Burlington Gun Charter as a possible vote for tomorrow morning. I have 397 after that. And then we today have OPR bill, and we are getting an amendment drafted for that to remove the early childhood licensure language. Spoken to that with members and other community chairs, that the House as a whole wasn't comfortable moving forward with that amended language. So we look forward to working on that diligently and deeply next session. But that amendment is being drafted for this afternoon. So that is sort of our situational update on the bills that we still have moving at the moment. Any questions?
I do have one question, how to report this. Is it favorable with amendment? Did we amend it in any way?
Oh, yeah.
When it came back from the Senate?
Yes, we changed.
Or I made my mistake? Thanks.
Yeah.
We change.
Well, I'm gonna pull this